Good afternoon, everyone. This is David Searns with Haley Marketing, and welcome to today's Lunch with Haley webinar. So today's topic is a new one for us, something we've never covered before. And as you can see from the title, we're going to talk today about building your marketing stack. And I'll explain what that is in just a minute. Actually, this whole concept for today's webinar has come out of a lot of the strategy work that we've been doing, and even some of how we're looking at the range of services that we offer. So without giving everything away with the intro, let me jump in and we're going to talk about the concept of stacks in the staffing industry and where marketing comes into play. All right, so let's get this rolling. So you probably have heard the term tech stack. If you look over the last 5-6 years, there's been a ton of talk in the industry about building your tech stack. And if you've been going to the Staffing Tech Conference any of the past few years, you may have seen a chart like this that Maurice Fuller and team have put together to explain the different areas of technology. And really, a tech stack is all about using different technology, different pieces of software to enhance a staffing company's performance. So the core of your tech stack is typically your ATS, and the tools you build around it help improve efficiency, automate routine tasks, support sales, recruiting, and your operations. But just what is a marketing stack? Well, it's very similar. It's tools that are combined to make your marketing work. So before we get into the components of a marketing stack, I want to take you through something that I use when I'm teaching strategy consulting inside our company and to our clients. And it's called the marketing pyramid. So when you think about where marketing fits into your organization, the base of the pyramid are your company's core values and mission, what you stand for, where you're going. It's that vision you paint of the future. It's why people want to work with you. That values, vision, mission, they lay the foundation for everything that you do. They lay the basis for what you sell, the service you deliver. They're the basis for recruiting. And sitting on top of those core values and mission, the next thing is your messaging. And your messaging is all about how do you want to be seen? And when we teach messaging strategy, there's 4 components of your messaging. The first component is your positioning. How do you want to be seen relative to the competition? So the most common positioning in staffing is based on skill discipline. We're a light industrial firm. We're an IT staffing firm. Maybe it's more refined. We're a software development specialist. I know we worked with one company that focused on complex financial situations. They did staffing for really high skill financial professionals. But when you think about your positioning, there's 2 mental visuals you can have that will help you really understand what positioning is all about. The first mental visual is to think about a pie. So, Thanksgiving, Christmas time, you've got the pumpkin pie, the apple pie, the cherry pie, and you're going to cut up a slice. And the slice you get is the slice you own. The rest of the pie is not yours. Positioning is just like that. You're carving out a slice of the market that you want to own, where you're the absolute best in the world at filling a specific type of talent need, solving a specific kind of problem, dealing with a certain type of client based on the industry they're in, or the job title of the person you're working with, or any specific issues, challenges, problems they have. Could be on geographic location, but what you're carving is you're defining as tightly as you can your slice of the pie that you want to own and nobody else can have. Nobody else can stick a fork in your pie as your goal. You want a pie slice that's big enough to support your company's desired growth goals, but small enough so that it can be just yours. When you try to do the whole pie, like we service everybody because we're located in Miami, Florida, and every business needs staffing, it's really hard to make your messaging stand out, to differentiate yourself. So that positioning, thinking about what slice of the pie do we want to own, so that's the first piece. And I mentioned there's 2 mental analogies that you can use. The other mental analogy that you can use is to think about a box of Cheerios. So if I told you to go to your local supermarket, assuming you're someone who does shopping in your household, and I said, go get a box of Cheerios, if you shop regularly, you could walk through that store blindfolded and know exactly where to go in the store, what aisle to walk to, where to go down the aisle, and approximately where in the cereal section you're going to find that yellow box of Cheerios. Cheerios has done a great job branding itself. I didn't have to tell you that Cheerios was a breakfast cereal. You knew that. I wouldn't have to tell you where in the store breakfast cereal is located. You already know where those shelves are. And even which shelf is owned by Cheerios, you probably have a good feeling of. So when you're positioning yourself, you're sort of thinking about, what aisle am I in? What shelf do I want to be on? And what's my packaging going to look like so I stand out? So between the slice of the pie and the Cheerios box, that's what you think about in the messaging of positioning. How do I want to be seen? Where do I exist? Who are my ideal customers? Comes out of that. That's the first of 4 parts of the messaging. The second are key differentiators. And if you think about all of the unique values your company can offer, and if you asked your salespeople to make a list of all the reasons our clients work with us, and you ask your recruiters, make a list of all the reasons our candidates choose us, and then you ask your clients, why do you choose us? Can you ask your candidates, why you choose us? You'd get a long list of all of the attributes of your company that people think you do very well. Those are your differentiators. A key differentiator means it's a subset of that complete list. It's the differentiators that are the most important to your clients and or your candidates. They're the ones where you can build the greatest advantage over your competitors. So maybe your differentiator is service, okay? But every one of your competitors is saying their differentiator is service. So that's not going to be a key differentiator. Maybe your key differentiator is the fact that you have 25 years of experience recruiting IT professionals in Miami, Florida. Now that's a little more specific. That might be a key differentiator because of your expertise. I know we've worked with staffing companies that a key differentiator is their knowledge of the talent market. Another firm is their knowledge of Six Sigma and the manufacturing process and being able to eliminate waste for clients. So you're trying to identify attributes of your business that are really important to your clients and candidates, and you're usually going to have 3 to 5 key differentiators. The third element of your messaging is your value proposition, and that's flipping those key differentiators on their head and saying for each differentiator, each attribute of our business about why we're different, why is it important to our clients and our candidates? And then you want to define the value. Then the last part of your messaging is a core story, which sort of ties it all together. I was talking with a company that had one of the owners of the company is an author and a public speaker, and she talks about creating alignment between people and leadership in an organization. And that message is their core story. They talk about people and alignment and how you create it. And then the service they provide to enable that alignment is staffing. But the value they're selling, the story they're telling is about creating alignment and how that leads to more high performance teams and organizations. So anyways, now all of those aspects are part of messaging. Your messaging then should be conveyed in your website, your sales collateral, your PowerPoint decks, anything that your team is using to sell or recruit. That messaging should permeate the website and those collateral materials. And this is a good test. When we get off today's webinar, go look at your website, and in 3 to 5 seconds, does your messaging come out of that website? Is it on the homepage? Is a messaging for candidates, your employee value proposition? Is that on the job seekers page? Is there a message for clients clearly on the employer's page? You want to make sure that that messaging, which was driven by your values and mission and vision, then is seen by everybody the way you want it seen in every touch point they'll have with your organization. Now that then leads to marketing. And the very top of the pyramid are your salespeople and your recruiters. And the marketing, we're going to talk a little bit more about this later, is different ways to help support sales and recruiting. And the 2 primary strategies are integrated direct marketing and content and inbound marketing. Now, last month, when we did Lunch with Haley, I did a session on strategy where we did these 2 strategies and a bunch of others that support sales and recruiting. So if you missed last month's webinar, go to lunchwithhaley.com, check out the on-demand webinars, and watch last month's webinar on strategy, because it will give you even more things to fill into that section of the pyramid. But when it comes to your marketing stack, the purpose of today's conversation, it really works in that middle section. Your leadership should be setting the values, mission, vision. Your sales team and recruiters are executing on your business plans. They're executing on your lead generation. They're executing on your recruiting. They're filling job orders. Marketing is everything in the middle. And that marketing stack are all the tools and strategies that you're using to support sales and recruiting. So what goes into the marketing stack? Well, I just said the first thing. It's not just tools. It's not like tech stack. That's all different tech products. Here it's tools and strategies. It's how you bring your messaging to life. It's how you build your brand, the voice of your brand, the authority you have, what you want to be known for, how you create your visibility in the market, both digitally and in the real world. It's how you extend your reach to your ideal clients and candidates. So you've carved that slice of the pie. You're thinking about who are the businesses that I'm trying to reach in that slice of the pie? Who are the ideal candidates that I'm trying to reach in that slice of the pie? How do I extend my reach to as many of the people and organizations as possible in my slice of the pie? And again, it's really giving that foundation. So if you're in sales, you're in recruiting, marketing's job is to make your job easier, to bring sales leads in, to make sales calls more profitable, more effective, to have higher level conversations with clients on the recruiting side, to bring more candidates in, to control your cost of talent acquisition, to enable you to fill a larger percentage of job orders and improve the quality of your fills. So specifically, what goes into your marketing stack? Well, there's 5 things we're going to talk about today. So the first is really obvious one, your website and or career site. Then there's branded content. Content you're sharing directly because your business created it, and or content you've curated that helps strengthen your positioning, but it's branding to your expertise. Then there's digital marketing, all the things we're doing online to get found, bring people to us. And related to that is also traditional marketing. We'll talk a little bit about both today. I put recruitment marketing in its own bucket because for years and years and years, recruitment marketing, other than job advertising, the rest of recruitment marketing was sort of just lumped together with the rest of marketing. But really your sales lead generation, your sales support marketing is very, very different from your recruitment marketing. And if you think about it from the way most marketers would say, your sales focused marketing is B2B, business to business. Your recruiting is B2C, businesses to consumer, and those can have very different strategies. And then, just like the tech stack, there is a marketing stack. I've got a graphic to show you in a little bit that you're going to laugh at with just a few of the technology products you might consider for your marketing technology. All right, so let's get into these. What we're going to do for the rest of our hour together is we're going to go into each of the elements of your marketing stack and just talk about what the key pieces are, best practices, and strategies for 2021. All right, so let's start with your website. So hopefully everybody has a website, although I just did hear from our sales team. We're working with someone that is building their very first website ever in 2021. We were sort of shocked, but it's sort of, this is really the core of how you interact with people today, maybe even more so than the telephone and email, is have people who see you and interact with you on your website. So a staffing website, though, isn't just a website. Yes, you've got your corporate site. Within that corporate site is your career site or job board. Some staffing companies actually will have an independent career site because they really want to focus on employment branding. A lot of corporate websites have a separate career site. Then you may also have microsites. So they could be around specific branded service lines, divisions of your company, geographic locations, where you're going to create a separate website that you want to stand apart from your main site. We have one for just showing off our website development services. We have a microsite for that. I know we have staffing clients that have separate microsites for each one of their divisions. So the idea to having a microsite is when I really have to create an independent focus on a product, a market, a skill discipline, a type of clientele. You may want to have a separate, smaller website for that. Landing pages. We don't think of landing pages along the lines of websites, but really are they're one-page websites. It's a single page designed to get someone to take an action. And when you think about your marketing, you're going to have a mix of multiple types of staffing websites, from your corporate site to your job board. You may or may not have microsites, and all of you should have some forms of landing pages you're using to drive response. So some best practices in thinking about your websites. Number one, start with outcomes. Now, that doesn't mean what you want to accomplish with your website. It means, what do the people who are coming to your website want to accomplish? So you're going to have 4 audiences, maybe more. You're going to have your current clients. You're going to have current temporary or contract associates. You're going to have prospective clients, general employers, and you're going to have job seekers. Every one of those audiences comes to your website with a different goal in mind. A job seeker is probably actively looking for your job openings, and they want to get to them as quickly as possible. And that's going to be the largest percentage of visitors to your website. An existing client may be looking for information about services. What's the status of my job order? How do I contact you to place an order? They need to be able to find that information. And so when you're thinking about website design, you want to start with all of the outcomes, the actions that people are going to want to take. And then you're going to layer on that, what are the other actions that we can take to start to build relationships with prospects? Because there may be a lot of actions that are not applying to a job or requesting an employee that enable you to start to build relationships with people. We recommend starting by looking at data. So your content and your functionality of your website should be data-driven. Get into Google Analytics, make friends with it. If you don't know how to use it, find someone who does, because you want to see what pages of our website are people visiting. What pages are they entering the website on? It's not just your homepage. Where do they go after they first come into the website? Maybe if they start on a blog post, that's the entry page. Where do they exit the website from? What are those pages where we're losing people? What pages are they going to take action, and what are our conversion rates on those pages? What are high converting pages and low converting pages? You really can spend a lot of time analyzing the traffic flow coming to your website. How are people finding you? Where are they going? What are they doing? How long are they spending? And where are you losing people? Because that ultimately then defines something called information architecture, thinking about how do I get people from point A to point B as easily as possible. When it comes to surfing the internet, whether it's on a phone, a tablet, or a desktop, people aren't very patient. You've got seconds, less than 10, to get someone to understand the purpose of a page and to get them to find what they're going to next. And if they get lost in those first 10 or less seconds, they're probably going to leave your site. So we have to think about the architecture, the structure of content, the structure of pages, the structure of calls to action to get people to convert. And that's the conversion paths. There's a whole science called conversion path optimization, CPO, where people study every single page on a website and they test, A/B test, colors, buttons, links, forms to see what will drive the most response. Now, most staffing companies don't have the time or budget to be testing everything like that. But you want to think about what's the easiest way to get someone to apply to that job, to request services, to interact with your business. And there's lots of ways to accelerate conversions by thinking through calls to action, by thinking through how your content is structured. And that leads to the next bullet, hierarchical content. Once upon a time, not that many years ago, we did a lot of content writing for search engines. We wanted Google to find the website. And so there were schools of thought to use keywords so many times on a page. What's the keyword density? And make sure you have long content on the first pages people hit, because the search engines really like that. And some of that hasn't changed. Search engines do like long content, and blog posts and pages with 2,000 plus words tend to rank much better than short pages. However, as human beings, that sort of fights with the, I want my information in 10 seconds or less. And so with hierarchical content, you want to think about less content drilling down to more content. So somebody who's an Instagram level reader or a Twitter level reader of depth in what they're looking for, that's not a knock on people, that's just how we surf today. They can read the headlines, they can skim, they can look at the pictures, they can put together the story of your messaging very quickly, in a very skimmable manner. And then they can drill down into that more in-depth information. And that's what the hierarchical content is all about, is I have to get you from the high-level intro stuff to the more detailed stuff that the search engines are going to love, but only if people want to drill down to that level. If we start with that in-depth content, we're likely to lose very qualified clients and candidates. Next thing is this is more of a technical issue, and what we're seeing today, and this is something we've changed to, is not just using content management systems, but going to page builders. And content management, sort of the evolution of websites, is people built what was called flat HTML. They hand-coded every page in your website and the way everything looked. And they hand-coded the CSS or the style sheets that showed how the page is laid out. That led to content management platforms, and the number one content management platform is WordPress. We've been building websites in WordPress for nearly 10 years now. And WordPress is a great content management system, and there's tons of third-party tools to make WordPress even better. The problem with WordPress is if you want to do more than change content, maybe you want to change layout of a page, maybe you want to change some of the more advanced functionality of a page. Well, if you're not a developer who knows how to write HTML code and sometimes PHP or JavaScript code, you can't make those kinds of edits yourself in WordPress. And that's where page builders have come along. And so they started a few years ago. Platforms like Divi and WP Bakery and really have evolved. And there's a number of different page builders that sit on top of WordPress. And what they do is they make the interface more of a what you see is what you get. So now someone like me, who's not a web developer by any stretch of the imagination, can go in and make the website functionally different. I can add much more sophisticated changes to a website without needing to code. And so you'll see when we get to the marketing technology, we actually switched everything to Elementor last year because it makes such a difference in making sites easier to maintain. And if it's easier to maintain, it's more likely that you'll keep it current. And then on the list, we've got dynamic content. Today, we live in an era that we're getting new information all the time, new jobs, we're writing new blogs, our ATS may be giving us new data about the marketplace. Well, websites shouldn't just be a brochure, they should be dynamic. And as things are changing in your business, your website should be updating. Just like if a human being walked into your office and talked to a recruiter, they could get the latest information on jobs and what's going on in your business and how to get opportunities from talking to that recruiter. Well, that same kind of updated dynamic content should be part of your website so visitors can take advantage of it. And lastly, it's about integration. And we're going to get to integrations later when we start to get to technology, but we really need more integration with other technologies that enhance the functionality of your website, whether it's integration with your ATS, integration with chatbots, integration with automation platforms. So now your website is really creating a stronger link between the visitor, the employer, the job seeker, and your salespeople and your recruiters. All right, so some strategies for this year. So I want you to rethink websites. It's not a brochure. It's not just a website. It's a digital branch office. More people are going to come to your website to interact with you than ever visit you in person. Now, that's not just pandemic related. This has been happening for years. You'll get orders of magnitude, tens, hundreds, thousands more people on your website than in all of your offices combined. So that means I need to be able to provide the kind of functionality somebody wants in a branch on my website. They need to be able to see the jobs I have. They need to be able to apply. They need to be able to get access to any information they want about working with us. Whether it's coming from your ATS or coming from other software, I need to think about the website as a place that service gets delivered. I want to review the calls to action. What do you have today? How can you create more calls to action, more things people can do to start to engage with you? And how can I make those conversion paths easier? Maybe make the calls to action more visible. Maybe adding something like a fly-in to draw attention to the call to action. Maybe shortening forms so that it's easier for people to fill in, or using something called progressive profiling where I'll just ask for one piece of information at a time. Or maybe making my website smarter by integrating it with my marketing automation or my ATS so that my website actually remembers the visitor coming back and can now personalize the experience more for that visitor. Something that happened big last year, diversity and inclusion and social responsibility. People looking for work, they're looking for companies to work for that are responsible. And whether it's D&I or just your overall social responsibility to your community, to your industry, they want to see that in your website, in your copy, in your pictures, in your blogs. They want to see that you're a good company to work for. Part of that inclusion is also to make sure you're compliant with the Americans with Disabilities Act. Can someone who is vision impaired, ranging from I have a hard time seeing to I'm colorblind to I'm completely blind, can they navigate your site? Can they apply to jobs? If they can't do that, you're opening yourself up for a lawsuit. And it started happening in 2019. I'm not sure we saw as many last year, but with higher unemployment and more people getting back in the workforce this year, you're likely to see more issues with ADA compliance. Your overall branding, focus on the story you have to tell. It could be your expertise, your people. It could be your company values, but you want your brand not just to be about the functional side of what you do, but as much about the human side of who you are. Because in staffing, it's so hard to differentiate on what we do because there's so many other companies that do the same things. So we're going to maybe have an opportunity to differentiate around values, people, and I'll add one more, process. Those are the three things that really need to stand out about what makes you different. But if you've done the messaging exercise, you know that cold. You just have to make sure that comes out in your website content. And automation. I've mentioned it twice already. Now I'm going to mention a third, and I promise you it's coming up a few more times. How can I integrate more automation? Whether that automation is chat, whether that automation is somebody filling out a form to how notifications go to sales and recruiters, how candidates go directly into the ATS. I want the workflow to begin on the website. And I want the automation to make it easier for our salespeople to work with more clients, to be better notified of when people are visiting the website, for recruiters to better handle service so that they don't have to physically get on the phone every time someone has a question. I can use automation to provide a better service experience to clients and candidates. All right, that was websites. Let's go on to the next part of the marketing stack, branded content. Now, we actually did a product demo on this 2 days ago, but I'm going to build on that product demo today. So branded content, what we're talking about here is can be information on your site, can be educational or entertaining. I got an email about an hour ago. I'm a graduate of the University of Pennsylvania's Business School, and I got an email from somebody else who was an alumnus of UPenn, started a content company. He spent the last 18 years as a stand-up comedian, and he couldn't get any gigs last year because of COVID. So he started a new business to help companies add humor to their communication. So he sent me, I have no idea who this guy was, but he sent me an email, and since he's a grad of the same school, I thought I'd take a look. I thought it was a brilliant idea. He's got a team of writers, team of comics that produce content because if you watch the Super Bowl, the commercials were either funny or heartwarming. That's the goal, is to touch the emotional side. And if you look at most staffing company websites and even our blogs, we tend to be informative, which is great. But if we can also be entertaining, heartwarming, that branded content will have more value. The most important thing about your content is relevant to the reader. So somebody coming to your website, you know who they're likely to be, what they're interested in, what their problems are, how they're managed, how they're motivated, and you're providing content that they find relevant. Now, that content may or may not be related to what you sell. Everything you share does not have to be about staffing. And you may have heard us talk about Lunch with Haley's before. Unfortunately, we've tested this. And the content that gets the most engagement with staffing buyers is not staffing content. It's content about the kinds of business problems they have. Diversity and inclusion might be one this year. It's kind of everywhere. Coming back from remote work is going to be a big one this year as businesses think about what's the new world of work going to look like as more people are going to want to stay home, as we need to continue to have this kind of work from anywhere flexibility. Those kinds of content get people's interest and they lead to people problems, which leads to staffing services. So when you think content, focus on the interests of your audience first, and then how that leads to a conversion path to talking about staffing services. One of the goals of branded content is to build authority or relevance. So you share content so it makes you an expert. Now, in some cases, you actually want to be seen as a thought leader, but most of the time for staffing companies, you don't have to be a thought leader. You just want to be seen as relevant to your audience. So if I'm constantly talking to HR professionals, I better show that I'm in tune with what HR professionals care about. If I'm selling to CIOs and CTOs, Chief Technology and Chief Information Officers, well, that's a high-level conversation. I better have content that proves I understand the problems, interests, and concerns of people at that level, because if I come in talking about staffing, they're probably not interested. The goal of branded content very often is to drive traffic and drive response to your website. Driving traffic, it may be social posts, blog posts that are bringing people to the website to learn more about a topic. Driving responses, they may have webinars, podcasts, ebooks, white papers, survey papers that I'm asking people to give me contact information. It's gated content that they have to provide contact information in order to download. So I'm using branded content to both increase the volume of people visiting my website and the volume of people converting. It should be integrated with sales and recruiting. Almost everything I mentioned so far is about content in your website, but salespeople should be using content every day in selling. I think there was a blog post on our site, one of our team members wrote recently on assignment selling, actually giving clients quote unquote homework assignments to do before a sales call, because it makes the sales process better for the client and for the salesperson. Content can be used to educate people in the sales process so you can have more meaningful conversations during selling. It can be used to open doors. It can be used to follow up. It can be used to create excuses to make follow-up calls. And same with recruiting. Content can help reduce the need to have recruiters having one-to-one conversations, videos that educate, videos that show people the process that they will need to go through, orientation videos about assignments. It could be content that is used for onboarding a new temporary associate. But if you think about all the ways to create branded content to enhance the service experience or make people more interested in working with you, that's the kind of branded content that goes into sales and recruiting. And it can be before you sell or recruit, as part of the service delivery, or after you've sold or recruited a candidate. Branded content is all about differentiation and strengthening your positioning. So going back to that messaging, when you really know who you are and what you stand for, you want to create content themes around those topics of differentiation. You want to create authority, thinking about words you want to own. You want to think about that position, that pie slice you've defined as your own. You've stuck your flag in it. And now, how are we going to produce content that positions us as the best in the world for any sort of staffing related services or problem solving for our slice of the pie? And content is a great way to stay top of mind. Regularly sharing information via email, via texting, via social media, via, one day we'll get back to seeing people in person, via drop-offs. It keeps you top of mind. No salesperson, no recruiter can be in touch with every client and every candidate frequently enough to maintain top of mind awareness. Branded content is the easiest, most effective, most powerful way to keep in front of someone and share that mind, or keep that mind share until they have a staffing need. So in terms of branded content, we tend to think about blogs or videos, but it can be all kinds of things. It can be as simple as tweeting. Your tweets are branded content. The posts you share, your team members share on social media, it's branded content. If you're a salesperson or a recruiter, you should be looking to build a personal brand based on what you are personally sharing on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. And if you're into TikTok and want to make videos, there too. Stories, those multi-graphic, multi-video components now of every social media platform, where you are using their platform to tell a story. And if you think about selling, if you think about recruiting, it is storytelling. So we should be creating stories that convey our brand, using content that shows our expertise, shows our authority, is educational, is entertaining. Blog posts, videos, surveys, and research can be branded content. Great way to create really valuable, unique content to you is to do market surveys. We'll look at tools later that we use, but researching how your clients think, how candidates think, and then sharing back with the audience, with the marketplace, is a great way to create content that's unique to you, that builds your authority. Turning that content from a survey or from blog posts or from videos into ebooks and white papers is another great technique. We're doing a lot of long format blogs and sometimes ebooks and white papers by doing things like you're listening to today, getting a webcast or a podcast and then taking the recording of the conversation and having a transcription made and using that to create another piece of content, multiple blog posts or an ebook or a white paper. You can do the exact same thing. Webinars and podcasts, huge for creating branded content where you can just do what you're listening to today, share some knowledge you have that would be interesting to your audience, or interview people, whether it's on a podcast or a webinar, getting on the phone and talking to, or getting on Zoom and talking to HR professionals, leaders in your industry, and then sharing that with other people in the same role. That's the kind of content they want to hear. So there are a lot of staffing companies that are effectively creating webinars as a series, creating podcasts to engage with their clients and prospects or their candidates. And then print. Everything old is new again, and print is the express lane at the supermarket. So how can you use print, whether it's magazines? There's now companies that will help you write a book and create branded content that really differentiates your business. That organization I mentioned earlier with the core story, one of the owners of the company, she wrote a book. She wrote a really good book on creating talent alignment. Magazines, you saw an example of it on the last screen, HR Insights. That's a branded magazine that can help you stand out in the marketplace by sharing educational content branded to your company. Now, we just had a question about Clubhouse and using it for staffing agencies. So I'm relatively new to Clubhouse. For those who don't know what Clubhouse is, it's an audio-only channel, so like a podcast, but it doesn't get recorded, and it's only real-time conversations. So if, like any channel of communication, if you can build an audience who's interested in the conversation, absolutely a great idea. I could see, and I've not yet seen, staffing companies using Clubhouse to have chats with employers. If your client is a well-known employer in a marketplace, or you've got several of them, getting on Clubhouse and saying, hey, we're talking to these department heads and these HR leaders and these organizations about how they hire, it's going to build you a talent audience. Or conversely, if you're thinking about talking to candidates, maybe you want to talk to people who are the top IT people, the top healthcare professionals that you've ever worked with, and talk to them about how they pick a facility or a gig to take on. You really need to think about, how do I create that connection with the audience? So I think Clubhouse represents a lot of interesting opportunity. It's still so new, I think that most people don't know about it. But also it might be a great way to do smaller communities, and almost like you'd have a focus group to have those conversations, real-time conversations with people in the audience you're trying to reach. So hope those few ideas help on Clubhouse. Mark, I'm new with it, so I'm far from an expert. So those are just a few ideas off the top of my head. All right, so some best practices for branded content. Number one, plan your content. It has to be strategic. Think in advance about what you're trying to accomplish. Number two, also have a plan to getting it created consistently. We see it all the time when people blog for a few months and they give up. People start a podcast, a newsletter, they do it for a few months and they give up. Content works when it's consistently done. And because there's so much content being produced these days, the only way to differentiate with content is to be doing it regularly. Now, one trick to doing it regularly is with pillar content. I'll show you a picture of it in just a second how that works, but it's about creating one big piece of content and then breaking it down into lots of smaller content byproducts that you can then share through your blog, through social media, through videos. I'll show you a picture in just a minute of one way that's done. And then mixed media, using multiple channels of communication, not just text, not just video, but a combination of both, or not just audio. So pillar content is you create something that's of high value to your audience, an ebook, a webinar, a survey, a white paper. You make it available on a landing page so people can download it. So that's the conversion path for your business. You break the big piece of content into lots of little blog posts that help promote it. You break all those blog posts into lots of social graphics. And what you're doing is you're using social media, you're using your blog, you're using search engine optimization to promote the content, but you're really driving people back to that landing page to create conversions. And so pillar content is an easy way to create consistency. It's a lot of work to create one big piece of content, but it's not as much work to create those smaller pieces of derivative content. So for 2021, what should you do? Again, sit down and look at your strategy. And we recommend revising your strategy every 90 days to make sure you're relevant to your audience and relevant to what's going on in the world. And particularly this year, who knows what things are going to change in the next 90 days. So we want to always be looking at our strategy and updating the kinds of content. Our strategy should look at how we're building authority, how we're building community with our clients or candidates, data we might want to share, creating social proof, testimonials, case studies, online reviews. And we also want to look at creating brand stories. What are we going to tell as a story that's interesting about our organization, or better, stories about our clients and candidates, making them the heroes of the story, but illustrating the value of your services as you're telling the brand story. We want to get more involved in team-based content sharing, because team-based sharing gets 8 times more reach and 7 times more response. So we need to get people in our organization sharing the company content, not just sending it to our company LinkedIn and Facebook pages. And then how can we become a guest on other people's outlets? It's a form of influencer marketing where you take advantage of the audience somebody else has by producing content for them, whether it's a trade association, another business that may have access to the same kinds of customers you want to reach. And maybe you do guest content 2 ways. You take their content in exchange for them taking yours. But guest content is a great way to extend your reach to people in your target audience that you may not have direct access to. And then there's curated content. I mentioned earlier, it doesn't have to be all stuff you created. You'll see later when we get into technology, a platform we've just discovered that makes it really easy to curate highly relevant content around any topic of interest. And by sharing curated content, you're not saying we wrote this, but you're showing people we're following the information that's important to you in our industry, to you in a specific job title. We're relevant. We're up to date on what's going on with you. And that sort of positions you, again, as someone who they want to know because you have an interest in the things that interest them. And then lastly, there was content optimization. Sorry, I skipped that too quickly, which is looking to go back to pieces of content and updating them to improve the SEO of things that have worked in the past. All right, that brings us to the third part of our marketing stack, digital marketing, and traditional marketing too. So digital marketing, it's about increasing your visibility online, getting more engagement to drive traffic to your website or to drive reactions right on social media, increasing conversion, so getting people to take actions, either take actions that are right next to the sale, they're calling you, they're applying to a job, they're filling out a request an employee form, or conversions that are just getting them into your marketing funnel. They're requesting some sort of information, giving you permission to stay in touch. So the ways you're going to do digital marketing: search engine optimization, getting found not just for being number 1 for staffing company in your market, but getting found for a wider range of topics that are of interest to your audience. Using advertising, search advertising, display, social media advertising to get your ads to the right people at the time they're looking for businesses like yours. Using social media to extend your reach to people you don't know, because email is a great way to reach people you do know. And then looking at messaging, whether it's chat bots, conversational systems, texting, ways to incorporate messaging into your digital marketing so you can have communications at a faster pace. And let's not forget traditional marketing. I mentioned it's the express lane. Something we're big fans of is IDM and ABM, integrated direct marketing and account-based marketing. And I'll show you a graphic of that in just a second. Creating collateral that answers 5 key questions. Questions people have about your services. What do you charge? Those are questions you actually want your website, your collateral to answer. What kinds of problems can you solve for people? How do you compare to the competition? Or why would I use temporary staffing versus temp to hire versus direct hire? You want comparisons that educate people. You want best of lists. Sometimes you won't even be the number 1, but you may want to. I've seen examples of people that promote competitors, that in certain categories, the competitor is better than their services. If I'm mostly a light industrial services firm, I might do best staffing companies in my market. And for best accounting staffing firm, I'm not going to list me, I'm going to list somebody else. When we get to best light industrial, I'm probably going to be number 1 or number 2. And then reviews, getting more people to review your business. Now, the key with this kind of collateral is it's not sales collateral. It has to be vendor neutral. It has to be unbiased. In the case of reviews, it has to be contributed by others. So you want to create traditional collateral, whether it's in print or in digital format, that answers these kinds of questions, because these are the questions people are asking when they're looking to make a decision about what staffing or recruiting firm to use. This graphic shows some of the parts of the integrated direct marketing process, identifying the companies that you want to reach, having a multi-channel program, different types of communication to reach out to people, and multiple channels of follow-up, and multiple ways people can take action, creating a systematic, structured process to follow that then leads to ongoing nurturing with those prospects that you're trying to reach. Very few of the people you're going to target with integrated direct marketing or account-based marketing are going to be closed on the first call. So we need to think about it as a process, a very structured process at the beginning, and then something that has really high value in an ongoing format. Best practices: segment your list. Having different strategies for different audiences, whether it's by industry, skill discipline, your level of relationship. ADA, it's an acronym. Get people's attention with your marketing first. Create interest in talking to you. Create desire in people to want to meet with you and get them to take the action, or through your own follow-up, get the action. You really have to focus on, what am I going to do to break through the clutter? And ADA is the model you use to break through the clutter, capture someone's attention, get the opportunity to make a sales call. And really the first sale you're making isn't your services, it's to get 5 minutes of the prospect's time. Using competitive intelligence, whether you're using some of the search engine optimization or PPC research tools to see what content is most interesting to people on my website, what keywords did people use to go find my competitor sites, what can I go research about trends in the industries I serve, because the more you have that intelligence, the more you can build relevant content. You can build relevant digital marketing, and you can create better strategies. You're going to have a mix of paid and organic. When it comes to social, you're probably going to want to do more Google advertising. That has to be budgeted for, and it should be part of your marketing mix. The organic is going to be great. You want to build as big a following as possible, but the practical reality is the social media sites make money by selling advertising. So every year they show your content to fewer people, and they require you to pay more to get to your audience. It's just a cost of doing business now. That integrated direct marketing, working that multi-step process into your sales outreach programs. And here's the diagram of how the process works. It's systematically identifying your ideal prospects, creating some form of campaign, whether it's physical mail, digital campaigns, LinkedIn messaging, or ideally multi-channel, mixing all those things together into a structured process that goes to calls and then ongoing nurturing to stay top of mind. Strategies for this year. Got some technical stuff. Google's coming out with an update in May around page experience. They want websites to perform better for people and mobile to perform better. So they're going to be asking you to make improvements to your website. And I don't care if you built your website last month, there's probably changes you're going to need to make because Google's changing the rules again. Sorry for everybody we just built a website for, but we can't control what Google does. But there's things we're going to have to do to make websites create a better performance experience. Get ready for the end of cookies. So much of the targeting we're doing is based on cookies getting stored, and thanks to all the privacy laws, there's more and more talk about the death of cookies, and there's going to have to be new ways to build first-party lists. Having your own in-house list is going to become more and more important, and so in 2021, focus on building your email lists. Focus on getting people to opt in so you have the ability to market. It goes back to Seth Godin's permission-based marketing from 1997. You need to find ways to get people on your list and not just rely on being able to buy advertising. It's going to get harder to target your audience as more and more privacy laws go into effect. You're going to see more selling on social. Like it or not, we're going to be seeing social as another direct response mechanism. There's going to be more and more of it because social networks need to sell advertising. For staffing, it's likely to be more recruiting focused. So we got to think about ways to differentiate not just jobs, but reasons for people to work with you, why your brand's better. It's going to be about building trust, that's social proof, knowing your audience, sharing content that's highly targeted, highly relevant, and illustrates your value. And getting your team involved in social sharing, as I mentioned already. All right, the next part of the marketing stack, and this one's going to go a little bit quicker, is recruitment marketing. So what are all the things that you can do to improve your recruiting in 2021? Well, we've talked many times about the 4 pillars of recruitment marketing: your career site and optimizing that for response, your job advertising, better managing the spend using data, and with how you add social advertising into the mix of job advertising, doing more social recruiting, building a stronger employment brand on social media to attract more people to you, and actually controlling your employment brand and the reviews you get. So some best practices here, it's to have a social recruiting strategy. Number one, a strategy for active job seekers. It's different than passive. So it's focusing on jobs, career paths, compensation, your brand. Why would an active job seeker choose your staffing company over another staffing company? Why would they choose it over the direct employer? Why are you the ideal career partner? Your social content should be positioning you as someone who triumphs talent, the best possible place to turn if you're looking for a job. Now, passive job seekers are very different. We need to think about the reasons they might look for work and position your company as a resource, as someone who can help them, as someone maybe if they're confidentially looking can provide information. The next thing I put on screen already is flexible recruiting budgets. Forget I have to lock in for the next year. You want your recruiting spend to vary with your need for talent. So based on your seasonality of your business, based on the new clients you brought in, you want to be able to up your spend or decrease your spend if business falls off. You want to go to month-to-month based pricing, and most of the job boards allow you to do this, but you want to make sure your budget's not locked in. You want proactive reputation management so that you are going out and asking people for reviews all the time. So you're combating the negative reviews that are inherent to staffing, because the majority of people we talk to, we don't place. So we need to be proactively finding out that we're providing great service to people, and when they're happy, asking for testimonials, video testimonials, and online reviews. And we want to really think about optimizing our career site. And whether it's for internal talent or for external talent, building out our career site so it maximizes response. Some strategies for this year: employment branding is bigger than ever. Really defining that EVP, that employee value proposition. What are you known for in your market? Why are you a better career partner than anybody else? How are you going to convey this message to the world, digitally and in the real world? Really focus on talent re-engagement and automation. We got to use our ATSs better, whether it's through automation platforms, simple email marketing, texting, calling people. We need to re-engage the people we've already paid to recruit. We need to get more creative with grassroots recruiting. For those of you who are on ASA Central and know my friend Richard Rosner, he is an amazing grassroots recruiter, grassroots business development person. He has the most creative ideas to get his brand out there. I know he went to local pizzerias and he said, "Hey, can I pay for your pizza boxes that you send out? I'll pay for your costs. Just let me put a flyer on top of them for my staffing business." He used it for recruiting very effectively. He had something on there today about instead of a typical referral bonus, paying for people's Netflix subscriptions, because a non-cash incentive can have more meaning to people than a cash incentive. He's just really creative, and you need to do the same thing with your grassroots marketing, and particularly for recruiting this year. How can I create more buzz with people who want to work for me? It's time for more data-driven advertising. If you haven't looked at programmatic, if you're spending more than $2,000 a month on recruiting, you absolutely need to take a look. It can help you manage that budget better to get more candidates applying, and very often spending less at the same time. It's a big year to focus on social proof, whether it's clearly rated best of staffing, Google reviews, or having your own reputation management. You want to have as much social proof as you can that you're a great company to work for. All right, and bringing it to the last one, which is marketing tech. And I just realized I've been talking too long on the first 4, and now we've got to cover something that looks like this. So this is a graphic, and this is a 4-year-old chart of marketing technology from 2017. I just saw a graphic and thought it was hilarious. Well, good news. We're not going to go through all these, but what I will go through is some of the technology that I think you want to focus on. So technology platforms to look at, you really want to think about all the ways you engage people: customer data collection, creating buyer personas, when you first communicate with people, when you're looking to distribute content, when you're looking to nurture leads, when you're looking to monitor, listen to the marketplace and get feedback, when you're looking to track your results of your marketing, those are all places that technology plays. And so there are content marketing tools, which we'll talk more about in a minute, rich media tools, social media tools, automation platforms, advertising platforms, sales enablement, data and analytics platforms. That's just a subset of that first graphic, but you're going to want to actually have technology or partners that provide technology in all these areas. So let's start with content marketing. Content management, mentioned before, Elementor, it's the one we use. Page management instead of just simple content management. You want better ways to update your website. Search engine optimization. You want tools that let you look into what your competitors are doing to really understand how to optimize your site. We use SEMrush and another one called Ahrefs. You may want tools for creating landing pages or doing A/B testing, tools like Unbounce or Instapage. You may want content curation tools. One that I'm like to use is called Feedly. It lets me subscribe to feeds of content so I can find places from third-party sources. Another one I mentioned earlier that we just started looking at is called Chronicle. It allows us to get really highly curated expert feeds of content around any topic of interest. That curation can then be content we share or content that we just use in order to create some of our own blog posts, videos, webinars, podcasts. Then there are content marketing platforms, HubSpot, ActiveCampaign. And lastly, tools for lead magnets and companies who are using our WordPress plugin suite. We have tools in there to create those lead magnets or to create fly-ins and calls to actions and blog posts to help drive more response to people visiting the pages in your website. All right, next kind of technology, rich media. We all know video works best, so there's video creation tools. Animoto is one we use, Powtoon, Adobe Premiere. We have our own platform that makes it really easy to create firsthand video called Video Now. Then there's video marketing platforms for getting your videos out there. YouTube's the biggest one, Vimeo, Vidyard, or other places to get your videos out there. You want a dedicated video hosting platform. Then there's podcasting tools. We use Audacity and other tools to actually make our podcasts. GarageBand, something that you get for free on your iPhone, actually is a really good tool for editing a podcast. Then there's graphic design tools. A lot of people like Canva or PictoChart. We use a lot of Adobe Creative Cloud. That's what our creative team uses to do our advanced graphic design. Then there's interactive content. There are lots of tools for creating content that your users can engage with. We use SurveyMonkey is one of our populars, but there's lots of other tools for creating. Typeform is another one for creating surveys, and I apologize. There's one that actually can create online quizzes and online tests. And I apologize. I had it on the top of my head. If it comes back to me, the idea is you're creating more and more engaging. You see them on social media all the time, creating quizzes that people will engage with to get response. You can do the same thing on your website to get sales leads. So I was thinking of grading kinds of tools, like you see website graders. All right, our next category of technology, social media tools. So we got social media management. A lot of people like Hootsuite, Sprout Social that can manage your overall social media. And there's social monitoring tools, simply using Google Alerts or tools like Social Oomph that allow you to watch what's happening and see what's being said in the marketplace. And there's social sharing tools. We've got a new one out there called Net Social that allows team-based social sharing. We also use tools like Buffer and Deliverit to automate social sharing. Then there's tools for influencer marketing. There's platforms to figure out either who to follow. One of the ones that our team uses is Follower Wonk to figure out who are influencers that we might want to connect with, we might want to learn from. Next up, next category is going to be our marketing automation platform. So marketing automation software, ActiveCampaign is the one we are now getting on. HubSpot's another one that's very popular, but rather expensive, to automate your marketing interaction with your website and with your sales force. There's email marketing tools, whether it's HaleyMail, Constant Contact, MailChimp. HaleyMail is the one we built. There's mobile marketing platforms, and now we're getting into some staffing industry specific tools. There's Time Saved, which can allow you to build an app, text them all to automate your texting. There's process automation, and the two big ones are Sense and Herefish. So these tools allow you to automate communication, process communication, mobile communication, email, and your overall marketing so that you can help your salespeople, help your recruiters leverage their time to do more, and you're providing a better service experience for your clients and candidates. Then there are advertising platforms. So if you're doing pay-per-click advertising, you need ways to manage it. You may be using Google Ads or Facebook's Business Manager. So you want to have search engine marketing platforms. You're going to be using PPC for social advertising. We use AdStage for reporting. There are programmatic tools. We use Appcast and their ClickCast software. And as you can see, there's a lot of technology to buy. It can become overwhelming. That's part of the reason we exist, is because all of these tools are becoming essential to running SEO, to running pay-per-click advertising, to really understanding how to better automate sales and recruiting to ultimately help you reduce your cost of selling, reduce your cost of recruiting, and fill more open orders. And our next category is sales enablement tools, really starting to create the link between technology and the sales force. So we've got sales automation here in HubSpot. They have a free Salesforce automation tool. Now, it's a lost leader to get them to buy all of HubSpot. Active Campaign that I've mentioned twice, that's the one we're using for sales automation. We're coming off of a platform called Benchmark. We just like the automation capabilities in Active Campaign better. There's customer support tools. If you've ever worked with our success team, you've worked with Zendesk. That's what we use to do all of our support tickets. In staffing companies, most don't have any sort of customer support system. So you might look at whether it's through a Sense or a Herefish or through a Zendesk, creating a platform to better automate support to take the burden off of your recruiters who have to answer questions for clients and candidates all day long. Then there's customer relationship management platforms. Your ATS might be your CRM, or HubSpot or Active Campaign or Zoho or platforms like that might be your CRM to keep all of that client data so your sales team can use it. The challenge usually with the ATS is none of the ATSs have native automation capabilities. So you just have to start to look to adding third parties in, either just to do the automation or to provide the CRM piece. And our last category is our data and analytics, data management, customer data platforms. So data management, there's an Adobe Audience Manager, one I'm not personally familiar with, so I'm not going to tell you much about it other than this is usually more consumer businesses need to get into really analyzing their audiences using third-party data. Customer data platforms, Evergage, Dynamic Yield, they do that sort of analysis, mostly for big brands. We're probably not going to see it as much in staffing. I just wanted to share it mostly to make you aware that these types of software exist. What we do use a lot is with web analytics, Google Analytics, tools like Kissmetrics, Haley Marketing's ROI dashboards, or even in our Net Social or in Sprout Social Hootsuite, using all of the analytics and your social analytics in those platforms to make better decisions. And of course, getting good at Google Analytics to get your web and social data. And then if you're using tags to monitor how your data is shared, how your people are getting to your website and how all of your marketing is working, then I know our team is big on using Google Tag Manager to organize all of that. All right, feeling overwhelmed yet? I am. It's a lot of stuff. That's why we're here to help. The best practices in terms of technology is just understand your marketing funnel. A few years ago, marketing was mostly used at the awareness and interest stages, and sales took over for everything else to convert. Today, marketing is used more to support sales deeper in the funnel, support recruiting. While people are thinking about working with your staffing service, you need marketing technology, marketing tools to better engage them, to personalize the follow-up, to use that branded content with the right people at the right time. As they're doing evaluation, we need to be sharing that social proof, maybe even the pricing information proactively down here, maybe even addressing objections, supporting sales and making it easier for sales to focus on closing. Best practices also is to understand your marketing and sales strategies. Go back to that webinar from last month and think about all the different ways you need to sell and identify, where are we losing time? Where are the gaps? What are we struggling with? Then look at the technology. Don't go technology first. Don't get overwhelmed by everything we've talked about. Where are the gaps that we can close? And what tools might help us close the gaps? And then don't do everything at once. Pick one thing at a time and choose just one tool to fill the gap. All right, last slide. Strategies to close it. If you're not yet investing in marketing and recruiting automation, this is the year to look at it. It's becoming a cost of doing business in the staffing industry to have an automation platform. So you really want to look at how do we automate to improve our customer and our candidate service experience. This is the year to start looking at conversational systems, chatbots, whether they're intelligent or scripted bots, but ways to have communication, conversations with people to help answer questions 24/7, 365. Your clients and candidates expect that you offer that. This is the year to look at programmatic. If you're not doing it already and you're spending $2,000 or more in advertising, investigate programmatic to help save money and get more job orders filled. Just listen to the sales rep that says you need to spend more to maintain your visibility. This is a year to look at increased personalization, using more data from your CRM, from your ATS to provide a more one-to-one experience through texting, through email, through your website. Maybe this is the year to look at online staffing. I had a really interesting discussion yesterday with the CEO of Time Saved. They have an app that can take you into the world of online staffing. It's great for service delivery. I'm a big fan of Time Saved. And I talked to him yesterday about getting people to download the app, and he said that's the issue. Staffing companies need to look at their particular talent pool and their market and say, first, can I get people to download the app as a part of customer service, time entry, getting updates on their checks, requesting employees. And if I can do that, then maybe we can take the next step to truly being placing your job orders online, finding talent, self-service online, finding your own job online. It's coming. We're seeing more people. I saw a news announcement today that one of the executives who left Uber just raised $5.2 million to create an online staffing company for blue-collar workers. Well, Uber Works didn't work. They gave up. This is probably the guy who headed that division who's going to come at the staffing industry again. So this might be a time for you to look at your clients and your candidates and talk to them. If you had an app for ordering, would they use it? If they'll use it, maybe it's time to look at building it. And the nice thing is there are now platforms that you can use to build it for you. You don't have to start from scratch. You need help with all of this? That's why we're here. If you need a roadmap for your marketing stack, that's why we exist. Something we're happy to help you put together. Just give us a ring. We're happy to show you more. And if you have questions, I apologize for going 7 minutes over, but there was a lot of stuff that goes into the marketing stack. If you have questions and want to talk about any of the things we talked about, websites, branded content, digital marketing, marketing technology, recruitment marketing, we're here to help. We're happy to answer questions. We're happy to brainstorm ideas. We're happy to put together that roadmap just for your business. Give us a call, shoot us an email, or check out the other webinars at lunchwithhaley.com. And speaking of which, I had to rush on a little bit on digital marketing today. So if you want a lot deeper dive, in just a few weeks, our digital marketing team is going to be talking about ways to use digital marketing to maximize your return on investment with the things you're doing online to help support your sales and recruiting. And that's going to be Thursday, March 11th at 2 o'clock. Well, from all of us at Haley Marketing Group, thank you so much for being part of today's extended format Lunch with Haley. We look forward to seeing you on future Lunch with Haley events. Have a great day.